Good morning. Today's video is going to be entitled Handy Little Things. Just some things that I've kind of created myself to help me in my carving processes. One of the first things I did was I was always having trouble with my painting, knocking the bottles over or trying to dip into them and things of that nature, because I like to paint out of actual bottles of paint as opposed to tubes, because they're pretty much ready to go, as far as thickness and stuff like that. So what I did was I created an actual, from a block of wood, a two by 6 piece of wood, and I drilled holes into the top of them, just, with a Forstner bit, just big enough to secure the bottles like that, where you can put them in there. And what I did was I put enough holes in there that I would have the basic paints that I needed: my black, my white, red, yellow, burnt umber, raw umber, the basic colors that you're going to work with. Sometimes a little bit of the sealer bottle that I had. So I've got a couple of blocks like this, which I found to be very handy, because when I paint, I generally try to take a little tray, something like you see here, these little plastic things where you buy little food in, or this is like some of those little snack packs where they have the cheese and the nuts. What I like about this is it's got two sides to it. I usually fill one side up with water, and on the other side, I paint out of the cap. So I'll just shake the paint up, remove the top, and stick it on one side. And then when I paint, I just literally can paint by, take my paint brushes and just basically paint right out of the cap on the paint. If I'm going to do a lot of big area, like a base coat, then I'll actually pour some paint right into that side. But it's just a nice, easy way to, number one, not worry about knocking over your paints by having them at hand access, because of being in this block, and they're very secure. They can't fall over or fall out of there. So I just find that to be a kind of a neat little way to handle the painting. And again, this little thing here, I have water on one side to keep my brush clean. And on the other side, obviously, I can use my, just put my paint in there or work right out of the cap. Use a piece of paper towel to just keep my brushes clean. That's just one idea, one little nifty little thing that I've come up with that helps me in the painting process. As I'm going through here looking at things, another thing is when I'm carving, if I'm carving a head or a body, a lot of times I used to keep them on a stick. These are sticks you can buy literally at Ace Hardware or some paint stores and all. They're just like little fake handles for files and things like that. You buy this, and then they sell these screws that they thread one way on the top and another way on the bottom. I don't know what they call them, but they're like two-way screws. You drill in, put a little epoxy in, put the screw in there. You now have a nice little hand thing for holding. If you want to paint your bird, you can move it around. Makes it nice and easy to be able to handle things like that. So that's just one idea. Another tool I've come up with that helps me is I put these copper tubing pieces into corks from, wine bottles like that. See, just regular corks from wine bottles. And that helps me get my eyes started. Like if I'm gonna take a bird like this and try to put an eye in it, I just kind of put that in there, twist it around a little bit. I can get a smaller one here, show you, like just go like this, stick it right in there and just kind of twist it around to get my eyes started. And then I can work and make that a little deeper by using a little Dremel tool or something like that, where you turn it on and you just drill right in and get it to the depth you want it. Just a simple way to get it started. But what's nice with that is it gives you the eye placement. Like, for example, this is a pattern I'm working on right now. So I had the eye drawn on there, and what I did was I simply took one of these tools and placed it over the eye hole. This one, I believe. See, and I just took it. You can see the pattern is on the side of the head. And I just took that tool and just kind of dug into that wood. Some woods are easier than others. And I actually, created the eye socket by using this little tool that I created. And you can see right on there, I've got the eye created. Now, some of the old timers, when they're doing antique decoys, would actually use that as the eye. They would dig that out, take little chisels or a little knife and just carve around that area to just recess it to make that eye come out a little bit, and then just round it off by sanding it. Now you've got the eye in there. Another useful tool, which I've used the corks from wine bottle on, is when I put the nostrils in. You see how the nostrils are on that bird right there? I take a little tool like this and just kind of like push right into it and create my nostril by just moving it left to right like that. Just go left to right, move it, and the next thing you know, I've got my nostrils in. Nice, simple, and easy. Now, nostrils are generally tear-shaped, teardrop shaped. So how do I make that happen for me? I found using when you buy a walnut cracking kit, you have the walnut cracker, and you get these little picks, they're called. They're like walnut picks, just to pick the walnuts out of the shell. I've got different ones and I bent them at different angles. And I find after I got that little notch in there, I can take one of them, and as you can see, I bend up the tip of it. So it's kind of bent at an angle. And then I just take that and just stick it right in there and move it back and forth. And it will actually help create the actual teardrop shape. And what I do if it looks a little rough to me is I'll take a little igniter like the types you use. I'll show you in a second here. These type of things where you start a grill fire with it. I'd start that thing up, get that thing igniting. Right now it's not igniting, but you'll get the point. There you go. You get it lit up, burn the end of that tip, let it be on there for maybe half a minute, just to get it hot. And then when you get that hot, you can actually burn that nostril into the wood. It kind of seals it and creates that nostril that you're looking for. Another interesting thing is if I think I made that hole too big, I thought maybe, well, it's a little too big, I think, I fill it in with wood putty. Fill the whole hole in with wood putty. Let it set a little bit. Then take that pick, dip it in water so it's not going to stick to the wood putty, and stick it down into the wood putty. And what it does is it takes the perfect shape of the tool, and some of it kind of oozes out along the perimeter, which gives that little raised look that you see when you look at the nostril on a decoy. Nice and simple, and you're always going to have a nice uniform decoy there. While we're working on the bill of a decoy, I also can use a lot of chisels. Like I'll take a chisel like this, and the nail on a decoy is always on the end piece there. There's always a nail. You can take a little curved chisel like this and just kind of push that in and push down and actually work it around, and you can actually create the nail. And then you take your carving knife and just carve up to it, so it's up raised up above it a little bit. You can use a simple little tool like an X-Acto knife, and you can cut those. You see those lines in there, over here and up in here. You can just take your little X-Acto knife and just run it in there like that on both sides. Gotta be careful, obviously. Do that. That's that thing where I told you sometimes I'll use my fingernail because my fingernail can get in there easy and it's just about the right spacing. Then you create those little notches with that. And the way to kind of finish that off is with a burnishing tool, which is two ends, round little ball on each end. And you just kind of take that and just kind of move it around in there. And what it does is it kind of rounds that out and smooths it out a little bit. You can also stick it up there in that nostril if you want. So a lot of things you can do with that kind of a tool. Just a couple of ideas right there where you can use some handy little things you make yourself. I always wear, when I use my bandsaw, I always use a pair of gloves. And this is what you call a no-cut glove. I cut the fingers out because I like to work when I hold my birds. I like to have a little bit of a grip. But when I'm working on the bandsaw, I don't cut the fingers off. These are called no-cut. There's like some kind of metal mesh inside this glove that when you're working on the decoy, if you happen to catch on a bandsaw or something, boy, you'd be in trouble. Even a drill press, it won't cut you, and it just kind of, hopefully you move away anyway. But you use a no-cut glove. I've cut the tips of them off sometimes and just put them on my finger, my thumb actually. Because when you're carving, you always say don't carve toward yourself, but there's many times when you have to carve toward yourself. Like if I was carving this head, I'd be carving this towards me, as you can see. I'm using my thumb as a gauge or a stop point. And as I'm working that knife towards me, see that knife's coming towards my thumb. So it's always good to just sit back and say, hey, if I'm gonna be working towards my thumb in any way, shape, or form, I want protection on it. So a simple little thing to do to give yourself that protection is to use a no-cut glove or a tip. They also sell things like called finger guards, which you can buy at any of these tool companies or Home Depot, places like that. Just slips on the finger. And they make them in different sizes to fit different fingers. Because let's face it, you got to protect your fingers. That's just an idea there. So you've seen that.